Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. I don't know why I just did that. That was dumb. I don't know why I just did that. Anyway, welcome to Talking Sports at Work. I am your host, Eric Persley. That is Itchy the dog. This is my new current setting, stage, backdrop. And hopefully I got it to work, and you guys were able to see the awesome new intro thing that I got. That was pretty cool, huh? Um, I, I at first I had this flag doing, hanging like down that makes more sense, but in doing so, I had to cover up the pictures of my children, and that just did not feel great. I don't know what it was, but that just felt wrong. Um, so I started, but then I had to stop and fix that. And then we've got our props here. This is actually a piggy bank from Jack's room, my son's room. But then this stuff is mine. Uh, this is my ode to Tennessee, the Tennessee Titans' last and really only great quarterback, Steve McNair, whom my mom loved back in the day. Well, we all did, but she really loved him in a romantical way. And she met him once, and we've got some stuff autographed by him, which is really cool. Excuse me, but anyway, thanks for listening in. Today is Wednesday, so what we try to do, or what I've started, what the plan was to do my live shows on Wednesdays. Unfortunately, that's not going to work today. So if you're watching this now at 6 o'clock, it's pre-recorded. It's currently 2:58 p.m. So it's not like it's that far behind, but we've got my mom's birthday dinner coming up today. Everybody's really excited about that. So in order to make scheduling right, I decided to just pre-record this episode. And anyway, even when I did the live episode last week, I didn't see any comments. I couldn't interact with anybody. I don't know why, because I know that people did comment because they've, told me. I've heard, multiple people now tell me about it. But for some reason, I couldn't see it while I was going, and it was weird. So I guess until I figure that out, at least it doesn't matter if I do it live or record it anyway. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening in. Today's topic, playoff previews or conference championship previews. More about Brian Callahan, the Titans' new head coach, former Bengals OC. Excuse me. It's going to be a short show today, and I know I say that all the time, and then I just end up rambling. But we'll try not to do that today. It really is going to be hopefully a shorter episode today. I feel like that's one of my problems that I with not only the podcast but these as well. It feels like they're just too long. So I'm going to try to keep it shorter today. And if we have time, we'll dive into some other stuff. Eagles firing their OC, Packers firing their DC, the remaining openings, Jim Harbaugh, Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, they're all still out there. And maybe even talk about a thing that was really cool with the Bills kicker. And Doc Rivers is now back as a coach in the NBA. So, with that being said, you guys know who, those of you who listen to the podcast, normally I start the show with my TMI segment where I just share something about myself that's personal that I normally wouldn't be comfortable sharing with the world. I didn't prepare anything for today. Only things that I've got on my list are not that great, honestly. And well, two of them would be too time consuming, and then the other two, they're just not, who cares? They're not that big of a deal. So, I guess I could now. So anyway, I'll just tell you guys what I'm feeling right now because I honestly, right now, am overwhelmed AF. Um, and I know that's probably not a good way to start a show, but it's the truth, man. I mean, I just you guys like I said, the way I'm trying to do this now is well on Wednesdays. That's my scheduled day off from work. I work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I volunteer to work Saturday for the overtime. But Wednesday is my scheduled weekday off. And so I try to do schoolwork and then any extracurricular stuff if I'm writing something or lately all that time has been dedicated to the podcast or the YouTube channel. So and I try to just treat it still like a work day. Um, and today was no different. But I I got kind of a late start because I kept the kids home a little bit late. We left like 2 hours later than we normally would to go to daycare, and that was just because I'm just felt like taking it easy with them this morning, and that was really nice. I don't regret that. but it meant that I already had a late start on things. And then, as I mentioned, today's my mom's birthday dinner, so I stopped by the store to get her a cheesecake. I guess it doesn't matter if I say it now because by the time you watch this, Mom, we will have already had it. So, surprise. But I also, during that time, I called into Mad Dog Sports Radio with Adam Shine, which was cool, and I was going to be on, but I waited on hold for like over 15 minutes, and I just didn't have the time to keep doing it. And honestly, I had a really quick, nice little chat with the producer guy who had me on hold, so that was cool. And maybe that's something I'll continue to do, and I'm going to try to keep getting involved in stuff in little ways like that. Also interacted with another Titans media person who's more involved and official in that capacity. His name's Easton Stick. He gave me some pointers on Twitter, which were very helpful. Anyway, I got off topic. Um, so yeah, already had the late start, didn't get home till like lunchtime, ate something really quickly, got going on my schoolwork. Luckily, I'm only doing this one English class right now. It's research and persuasion, and English classes are always just easy for me. That's not bragging. It's just, compared to other stuff, which I have to take like history classes and other things sometimes, that English classes are just a breeze. So I knocked this week's stuff out in no time with that. And then I figure, I've got a little bit of time. I can, work on some stuff. So you guys know, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm learning this as we go. I don't even watch YouTube, honestly. I don't really listen to podcasts, and that's maybe shitty to admit, but it's not that I don't know anything, but I'm not that familiar with it. I'm probably even at a little bit of a disadvantage compared to just your average person who does watch and listen and stuff. And that's not to say I never do. It's just, I'm not a YouTuber, and I'm not crazy about podcasts. I do listen to sports radio a lot, and anyway, point is, um, that I'm trying to figure this out. And you guys may be able to tell that, with each episode, maybe there's a new something, or getting a little better, getting a little more professional, hopefully. Today, I just Googled, adding graphics to YouTube videos or something like that, and found that site where I could download these templates, and, just kind of figured that out on my own, how to make it mine. And, I'm hopefully going to be able to apply it to this episode. And then I was also trying to, like find if maybe there's an AI tool that can help me do like in video graphics, like, something cool that pops up or something, but I didn't have time to get into that. I did, however, decide to do something that I've been meaning to do for a while, and that's create social media pages for the show. But man, that was a lot more of a pain in the ass than I anticipated. And creating the profiles was easy, honestly, but then I've got to go through and follow or add each individual person from my friends list. There's not a way to just click, add all or something. You got to go through each friggin' one, and that took forever. And then I actually reached a limit or something where it said I've got to stop for a while. And and that was on Instagram. And so then I go to do the same on Facebook, and I create one, and then I realized, well, this is just like a personal page. Maybe I need a business one. How do I do that? So then I have to start trying to figure that out. And God, it was just more than I was willing to. So anyway, many of you probably did get a friend request or a follow request or whatever from Talking Sports at Work. And please do accept it, because I'll eventually get back to that, but not anytime in the immediate future. For the time being, I'm just going to continue to use my own social media stuff, which, if you don't know, it's at HDW Pursley on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, and I'm Derek Pursley on Facebook. Anyway, so, by that point, I realize I'm running out of time. I'm going to have to go get the kids before too long so we can get back here. Got to go pick them up at 2 different locations, get back here, make dinner. And it's just like, it's over. It's a lot, man. Um, but that's kind of, it's all good. It's all stuff that I want to do anyway, right? I mean, nobody's forcing me to do this. This is stuff I want to do. So I wish I wouldn't let it get to me. And I'm trying to take like the same approach with that I did with the kids' birthdays in December, where I've got one uh, birthday, then 2 weeks later is another birthday, and 2 weeks after that's Christmas. But this year I really had a positive outlook on it, and just kept reminding myself this is not something to be stressed about. This is stuff to enjoy. And so I'm trying to keep that same attitude with this, but it's just it can be tough. I mean, even people who don't even have real jobs, who are YouTube video people, or podcast people, I'm sure it's very time consuming, and a lot of work. And I'm doing this working, over 40 hours a week and finishing my degree, which I'm almost done with that, and being a single father. It's just a lot, man. And anyway, I'm sorry, you guys probably are tired of hearing me complain about that. I'm not complaining. It's just that's what's going on in my mind right now. But at the same time, honestly, dude, I kind of thrive on this. I don't feel right if I don't have a lot going on, and that sucks. Never would have thought that about myself until after I got sober and learned a lot about myself and about who I really am at over the last 8+ years. And that's one of them. I kind of thrive on this pressure, and I don't, want to be overwhelmed, obviously, but just being whelmed is kind of where I live. So anyway, it's all good. Thank you guys. I don't know if I want to pause this and try to do this as multiple segments or, yeah, actually, yeah, I'm going to do that. So, going to pause, going to treat this like that. Hopefully, I'll be able to figure out how to patch these all together, and I'll be right back. All righty, friends, back again. So, this is what those transition things that I was looking at earlier would have been useful for. That's why I need to figure those out. I got the intro and the exit screen. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to apply those. I need to do the transition ones too. Again, learning all this on the fly, but I'm a smart person, right? I mean, I figure out most of this stuff. And luckily, I do, hopefully, I've got some people who have been willing to help and give me pointers, and that's really cool. Anyway, so we have some games coming up this weekend. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about that. If you listen to the podcast this week, you heard my take on all the divisional round games. I apologize for those of you who took my advice on the Texans-Ravens game. I really did think Houston would be able to keep that one closer. If it makes you feel better, I lost some money on that one too. Luckily, I was able to make it back and end up a little bit positive for the week because of the Packers and the Lions game. And, well, it was player props really mostly on both of those, except I did have the Lions and the spread. Thank God that 2-point conversion didn't work by Tampa there at the end. But anyway, so it's really cool to see the Lions in the NFC Championship game, man. That's just the first thing that comes to mind when I'm looking at this. And they haven't had this, they haven't been this far since 1955. I was listening to the radio the other day and they were talking about it. The coach of that team, who the last time the Lions had any level of playoff success, died in 1978. That's how long it has been for this team. And if you've watched the games, you've seen these shots and little segments about the 85, I think he is, year old man who's been a season ticket holder since the 50s, and how cool this must be for him. And I really hope that and I would imagine he's going to be at the game in Santa Clara, even if Fox or whoever it is has to pay for him to they should get him out there. So it's really cool. And the Lions right now are America's team. If you listened to yesterday or day before, maybe podcast, you heard me talk about how sick I am of the Cowboys. I went through, there are like 6 channels, I guess, that I sort of go between on Sirius Radio. It's like ESPN, Mad Dog, NBC Sports, Fox Sports, and ESPN Extra. And the NFL, yeah. So anyway, I go through those the other day, just trying to get some, just trying to listen for a few minutes before I started the podcast. Of those 6, 3 of them we're talking about the Cowboys, a team that lost over a week ago, that has nothing to do with anything right now. They didn't even have anything going on. It wasn't like they had had a coach change or personnel. Nothing had happened. They're just talking about the Cowboys because they're the friggin' Cowboys. Anyway, I'm not going to go on that rant. If you want to hear it, check out the podcast from earlier this week. But now, they had applied that moniker to themselves, and it hasn't applied since the 90s. Right now, America's team is the Lions. I mean, America loves to root for an underdog anyway, and who would not love this team? Dan Campbell. I mean, what better coach could there possibly be for a team like that, for a Detroit team, a gritty team, a come-from-behind team, an underdog story? How awesome is that? Now, I saw that they're currently, I think, 7-point underdogs. I'm probably going to take that against the 49ers. The 49ers are vulnerable, man. They did not look great against the Packers. Now, the Packers are a team that are definitely on the rise, and a part of me hates that. I am a little bit of a Packers fan because I was a Packers fan before Tennessee had a team. Um, but man, it's just so ridiculous. These fans do not know how to appreciate things because they've had 3 decades now of Hall of Fame quarterback play. They have no idea what it's like for all of the rest of the league at some point, and for some teams through that entire time, to look for a quarterback, to draft a quarterback every 4 years, to go sign free agents, to be and all this quarterback stuff. They go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and now Jordan Love looks to be really good. I mean, obviously, we cannot put him anywhere near that level yet, but he looks like he's going to be a Pro Bowl caliber at worst quarterback right now. And, but good for them. I still like them. It's just that aspect of it. I hope their fans know how spoiled they are. Anyway, they've got a very bright future, as do the Texans. And yeah, the question was asked on a show earlier if which team had the brighter future, and the truth is I don't know. I think they both have super bright futures. I think maybe it feels like maybe the Texans, because they're just beginning with this great rookie coach quarterback duo. Whereas LaFleur's been there for a little while, and Jordan Love, even though he hasn't been the starter, has been there for a little while. So, but it feels like, what Houston did in such a short amount of time, like their ceiling might be through the roof. But either way, both of those teams have great futures. Hope they're excited about the future. The Bills, man, that's gotta hurt. That sucks. And I know I'm not going to talk about it because, like I said, I dissected those games on the podcast. I did see something cool that where Bills Mafia people had donated over $100,000 to the charity for that kicker, his charity, his foundation that he runs, and that just goes to show what great fans Buffalo has. I mean, they're crazy cool. How awesome is that? And first of all, I don't think anybody should be letting him off the hook because that is his job. That's it. It wasn't a hard kick. It was, 44 yards, I think, or something. Any NFL kicker is expected to make that 9 out of 10 times. And then for it to be wide right in a playoff situation in Buffalo, it's just, God, but he's still a human being, and you've got to feel for the dude. And the fact that Buffalo fans did that was just so super cool. But we've got the Chiefs, who are 3.5-point underdogs against the Ravens. That makes sense to me. The Ravens are the better team. They are. The Ravens look like the best, most complete team in the NFL right now. But I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in January. I'm just not doing it. I did not do it this past week, and I will not be doing it ever. I think that is. And I said this going into the playoffs, man. Everybody wants to discount the Chiefs and talk about they're not the Chiefs of old. These people might want to be careful and might need to be ready to eat their words because the Chiefs are still going to be the Chiefs come the playoffs. They just are. Patrick Mahomes is on another level. We all know that. Which, by the way, everybody keeps talking about what's wrong with the Bills. What do the Bills need to do? How do they fix this? The problem with the Bills is not the Bills. The problem with the Bills is the Chiefs. That's the problem for the entire AFC. It's not just Buffalo. So in the playoffs, I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes. Do I think that they are going to win at Baltimore? I don't know, man. That's going to be a really, really good game. If I do end up putting money on it, I probably will go with the Chiefs. But I'm not suggesting that anyone else do that. It's just my feeling. But I'll do some more research and look into it a little more beforehand if I do decide to bet on it. And then Lamar Jackson, man, anybody who doubted that dude, which I'll admit, I was one of them. I said after that first year, his MVP year, which was really, I think, his first year as a starter, I said, I think Lamar will continue to be a good starting quarterback in the NFL, but I don't think he's going to be winning any more MVPs. I think now the league adjusts. That's something I've always said, no matter what it is that takes the league by storm one year, give defensive coordinators or, whoever it is, give the league time to a full off season to figure it out. It will not be as potent. It was the Wildcat, it was the read option, it was the RPO. And not to say that Lamar was a gimmick, but that option power offense, Naval Academy offense that they ran kind of was. And Mike Vrabel showed how to beat it in the playoffs that year. And I just felt like, that's where his strengths really lie, is being able to run, and he's a good enough passer, but I don't think he's an elite passer. I was wrong, man. This dude is everything. This dude is at worst a top four quarterback in this league. I mean, and he really might be number two. I mean, obviously, Mahomes is still going to be number one. And then I think it's probably either Allen or Lamar, right? And CJ Stroud might be putting his name up there before too long. But but yeah, man, I don't want to bet against Lamar either. But if I'm given the choice between the defending champs and the Chiefs, who just continue to be a force in the playoffs, or the Ravens, who have not had that much playoff success with Lamar, that was only their second win last week in the playoffs under Lamar. I would probably be taking the Chiefs. On the other side, I'm rooting for the Lions all in, even though I kind of like the 49ers too. I love Kyle Shanahan. How can you not be rooting for the Lions? Unless you are an actual 49ers fan and have some rooting interest in this, how can you not be rooting for the Lions? So we're going to take another quick break, and I will be right back to dive into some stuff that really matters, and that is my Tennessee Titans. Hi again, friends. So, welcome back. Although I don't know that you went anywhere. It's probably only like a 1 second delay, right? I don't even think I probably haven't even gotten transition screens yet for this by the time I post this. I got my little foam finger here. This is actually Jack's as well. We got this when we went to the Titans and Panthers game earlier this year, which was a lot of fun. And it was a win, so that was always good. Excuse me. Speaking of my Titans, we now officially have our coach, and we were the first team to make that. Excuse me. External hire. I think. I'm almost certain, because the Patriots obviously promoted Gerard Mayo, and the Raiders decided to keep Antonio Pierce. So yeah, we were the first team to get our guy, and I've said, you guys have heard me say, I wanted Ben Johnson, but I felt like he's probably going to end up with the Chargers. Number 2 on my list was Bobby Slowick, just because of everything he's done with CJ Stroud and that offense this year. I know he's inexperienced, but comes from that Shanahan tree, and I just really liked him. And then 3rd on my list was Brian Callahan, and that was in part because I just don't know that much about him. I mean, the truth is, excuse me, your average fan, even your educated fan, doesn't know that much about other teams' coordinators until we get to this coaching cycle stuff, until they become candidates, or, there's no reason for us to know most assistant coaches around the league. So, I didn't know that much about Callahan at first, other than he came from, indirectly also comes from that sort of Shanahan McVay system, which is cool. And he's Bill Callahan's son. But everything that I read and heard, and I, did a lot. As soon as the news came out, I started taking in everything I could, watching it on TV, reading it on my phone, listening to it on the radio, as much as I could find about this guy. And I didn't hear anything bad, anything. Everybody loves this hire. Obviously, Peyton Manning, who is president of Tennessee, absolutely, has been championing Callahan as a head coach for some time. Apparently, they had been together that Super Bowl year in Denver, and Peyton, we trust here in this state. So if he's championing him, that's probably going to carry a lot of weight around here. The one thing that I heard, and because I was making a point to try, is there anybody that's going to say anything negative about this hire? Only thing I heard was on Mad Dog Sports Radio, but it wasn't about him. It was about how they handled the Vrabel thing. And just to respond to that, even though they will never hear it, they were saying how ridiculous it was that we didn't trade Vrabel because we were in a rush to get our guy, and we didn't want to miss out on a hot candidate. And they didn't know, was Callahan really going to be gone by now? And to answer that, yes, apparently he was a much hotter candidate than anybody realized. I read that in multiple things, that a lot of teams had him as number 1 or number 2 choice. Excuse me. So also, I was also very much of the opinion, why didn't we just trade him and get something for him? But the team that we were going to trade him to was not going to take him. They already had their guy. And the only team that's even interviewed him so far, I think, is the Chargers, and they're almost certainly going to hire Harbaugh. So who would we have traded him to? You got to have a partner in order to trade somebody. And so far, it doesn't look like Vrabel's likely to get a head coaching gig this cycle. Um, so I, at the time, also said they terribly mishandled that. I still think that they mishandled the how they presented it, because they said that it would have taken too long and been too complicated, and that's just the worst. Why would you say that? That just makes you sound either incompetent or lazy. Don't say that. Explain a little bit of it. But now we see that there probably was not going to be a willing trade partner for him. And the guy we wanted, which, by the way, Brian Callahan was the Titans brass #1 choice all along. He was the first interview they requested. He may have gotten away if we didn't jump on him quickly. And apparently they didn't even let him out of the building after that second interview. He was scheduled to have interviews with Atlanta and Carolina after that, and we didn't even let him go. We said no. And again, everything I've read about this guy and heard gets me very excited. He's obviously going to bring a much more modern style of offense and culture to this team, which I love because, don't get me wrong. You guys know I was heartbroken when we fired Vrabel, but at the same time, that is not the sort of team I would have chosen. Like when I play a franchise mode on Madden, I'm not a ground and pound, run the ball, play great defense kind of team. That's not how things usually work now in the NFL. I mean, we made it work better than most, but that style is just sort of antiquated. And in Tennessee, we've never known anything but that. Going all the way back to Jeff Fisher, it's very nice and refreshing that we're going to have somebody who's going to have a pass first offense. I mean, we know he does like to throw the ball. He comes from that Shanahan McVay tree, so we know he's going to have a great running game. That's a lot of that outside zone stuff. But he also, from what we saw in Cincinnati, likes to air it out down the field quite a bit. It's not just your typical West Coast, short passing. He likes to attack deep, and I love that. And could not be more perfect for Will Levis and that super arm he has. So, and that was another thing that I read was this was the perfect hire, the perfect match for Levis, and that needed to be our biggest maybe consideration. So that's great. And what I've read about him too, in terms of his like relationships with uh, players is very encouraging because it reminds me, or it makes me think of a lot more modern style, a guy who can relate to the younger players better. And this generation of players, he's relaxed, he's laid back, but he's communicative, and kind of like how a Zach Taylor or a Shanahan or McDaniel, like these guys are. That's how many of them are. And Vrabel, on the other hand, was a bit of a dictator. He was from that Belichick school, even though he didn't coach under him. That's where he came from. And again, I loved Vrabel, but if this works out, if Callahan is the guy, I will be thrilled that we made this move. For us to move into a more offensive-minded, pass-first, quarterback-centric offense, which is what works in the NFL now. Everybody knows it. For us to really make a concerted effort to go that way now is going to be very, very exciting. Now we get to see, what's he going to do as far as coordinators. And I know people say he didn't call plays in Cincinnati. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. And anything you read or hear about from people who are actually in the know, actual media people and insiders and stuff, they say he had a very, very big hand in game planning, situational play calling, and developing players and all the stuff that an offensive coordinator does. He just didn't call every play, but they even did discuss every play during the games. He just wasn't the one in the quarterback's ear. And again, we've seen that doesn't matter. I mean, Zach Taylor didn't call the plays when he was with the Rams. He's done a pretty damn good job. Mike McDaniel didn't call the plays when he was with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. He's done a pretty good job. So I don't think that really matters. It doesn't. And now he is expected to call the plays here, so that's going to be cool. Who we get for a defensive coordinator, I'm going to be really interested to see that, because now, we're maybe going to be moving away from that I guess that sort of 3-4 Patriots defense that was Vrabel's system. Maybe we'll go to more of the uh, four down lineman, at zone. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see where we go with that. I'll be very interested to see who he chooses for defensive coordinator. I saw a list of guys that were possibilities. One of them was Wink Martindale, and I don't think I even knew who the other two were. Um, but Martindale's interesting. He's experienced. That might be a good one for a young coach. But Callahan, the experience thing with him also, I don't think is as much of a big deal because he was born for this. He's a coach's kid. He I think I popped my little play ball. He's a coach's kid, and you guys know if you listened to me before how I feel about the nepotism football league, but in this instance, it's going to benefit the Titans, so I guess whatever. And it's not like anything I can say or do is going to change it anyway. But he was born to this. He's had been immersed in football literally his entire life. So I think and he's going to be ready for the moment. The inexperience isn't going to be quite as big of a deal for him. He's going to know how to run a team. He's going to know everything that it takes, and he's going to be prepared. Now, I know people are also wondering if he's going to bring his dad, a legendary offensive line coach, with him. I've heard both ways. The last thing I read was probably not, that Bill Callahan was probably going to stay in Cleveland. I'd like him to come, even with my thoughts about nepotism. I'd like him to come because we have the worst offensive line in football, and we need all the help we can get. I mean, our biggest problem is we need to draft and sign an almost entire new offensive line, at least everybody except right guard, and Aaron Brewer is about satisfactory at center, but everybody else on that offensive line needs to be replaced. Brunskill, I guess, did okay. Now, no, everybody else on that offensive line needs to be replaced, and I wouldn't mind if we got an upgrade at center as well. Anyway, I got off topic there. This is going to be interesting now to see as well what we're going to do with the draft pick. Now I think we can really start to predict that now that we know who our guy is. I could talk about it all day long about what we should do and what I think might happen, but until we knew who our head coach was, there's no way to have any sort of educated opinion on where we might go. And I know that that may not change anything, but it has an impact. I mean, who your coach is will have some impact on how the team is built and how you draft. So now I still think we're going to go the same route, hopefully be able to get, either a Joe Alt or a Fashanu, whatever. But that's a topic for another day. Anyway, I love the hire. Again, I have not been able to find anything bad about this guy or anything that anyone has to say that's even negative. And I'm surprised because honestly, I've kind of been waiting to hear someone say something like they fired Mike Vrabel, 2021 Coach of the Year, for this guy. I've been waiting and looking for some of that stuff. I haven't heard any of it. So that in itself is pretty encouraging and pretty awesome, I think. So we'll see, but so far, I can't think of a single guy from that coaching tree on the offensive side who has not succeeded as a head coach so far. I mean, there are a couple of examples of defensive guys that maybe haven't been great, like obviously Brandon Staley. Robert Saleh still we're not sure about, but I think he'll be good. D'Amico Ryans looks like he's going to be great, but if you look at the offensive guys that have come from that tree, obviously Shanahan and McVay, Zach Taylor, Mike McDaniel, Matt LaFleur, and those are just off the top of my head. All of these guys coming from the offensive side of that coaching tree, they've all made excellent head coaches. And, Callahan might not be directly that, but he's had a lot of experience in a lot of other systems as well. But, going back to the Gary Kubiak West Coast and another encouraging thing just really quickly about him that I guess you can kind of look at both ways, but he's coached a lot of really good quarterbacks to some of the best seasons of their careers. He was, I think, Peyton's quarterback coach. I know he was on that staff. I think he was the quarterback's coach. When they won the Super Bowl, he was Derek Carr's quarterback coach for the Raiders during his best career as a passer. He was Matt Stafford's quarterback coach during some of his best years as a passer. And then you look and you see what he's helped to do with Joe Burrow. And Jake Browning, I think, had a big impact on what people thought of him and how they saw him. The fact that he was able to turn this backup into a really good quarterback as well. And we don't know how much of that credit should go to Taylor, but we know that Callahan is the one who gets a lot of the credit from what we hear. He's thought to be one of these quarterback guru, quarterback whisperer type guys, and Will Levis has almost unlimited potential. It feels like he's got all the tools, and this is really exciting. So that will be that. I'm going to take another really quick break, and then I'll be back to probably close things out. We'll talk about the remaining openings and anything else that I might have on my list really briefly. All right. Hey, friends, welcome back. So thank you to everyone for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Just really quick run through of everything, the handful of things that I still have on my notes that I didn't get a chance to talk to. We'll do a lightning round. How about that? So, did that. The Eagles fired Brian Johnson a couple of days ago, which is interesting because he's been interviewing for some head coaching jobs, including ours. We'll see what happens there. Although I think Sirianni's probably going to be out the door this time next year. The Packers fired defensive coordinator Joe Brady, which I know a lot of Packers fans wanted for a long time. They improved a lot, obviously, at the end of the season and in the playoffs, but it felt like it was time for them to go ahead and move on anyway. The remaining openings in the NFL, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. And just to my opinions on those have not changed. I've got Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers, Ben Johnson to the Commanders, Dan Quinn, and apparently maybe Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator with the Seahawks. Bill Belichick, I still think, is going to the Falcons, even though we've heard that maybe that has cooled down a little bit. And then the Panthers, I don't know, man. We'll see. Maybe Bobby Slowick, maybe Mike Vrabel. I don't know. Excuse me, but we'll see. Anyway, that I think. Oh, Doc Rivers is now the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. He might do well there. We'll see. I'm not much of a basketball guy. I know a little bit. I've always felt like he was a little bit overrated. His biggest accomplishment is winning a championship with a team that I could have coached to a championship. That team was incredible. And he's just kind of continued to underperform with other good rosters along the way, with the Clippers, with the Sixers, and now we'll see. I mean, goodness knows they've got talent on that team and they've got potential, and he maybe can harness it. We know he's likable. We know he's kind of a player's coach. We'll see how it goes. I mentioned the Bills kicker thing. That is really cool. I saw a Grammys commercial. I knew all but one artist on there, and that had me really excited because I never know any new music anymore, but I actually knew who all but I think one of them were, and that was a really nice moment for me. The Golden Globes happened. Very excited about Oppenheimer. I love Christopher Nolan. I love the Manhattan Project stuff. I was so excited about this movie, and it was not disappointing. Seems like the favorite for Best Picture. In the Oscars, it did win Best Picture in the Golden Globes. I also saw Killers of the Flower Moon because I love Martin Scorsese. It was very good as well. It was a little bit of a shift for him, something new, something different, but it was cool. And usually what I do is I start watching things during award season. Those are the only two I think that were nominated for Best Picture that I've actually seen. What I usually do is I wait for the nominees to come out, and then I pick which ones of these I actually want to watch. I watch what the experts tell me to. I'm just a sheep, I guess, in that way when it comes to movies. But I do love movies. And I love you guys as well. Thank you for listening in. Like the video here. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to the Talking Sports at Work podcast. Anything else that I'm forgetting like that, you just go ahead and do it. Share the link, post the link, tell your friends about it. Love you guys. I'll talk to you again soon. And for myself, for Itchy, for my beautiful children, we will say love you. Bye.